Hello everybody. So thank you for the introduction and for having me. I am an anthropologist and I'm doing my PhD on surrogacy process, and I did a master degree on gay surrogacy in France. So now I would like to introduce the panel. First, Fabien. So Fabien is a dad of 20 months girls. He went to Wisconsin to have a child through surrogacy. And for French people who know the TV show The Maternelle, you'll see, you can, I think, podcast this TV show online. So he went there and talked with his surrogates on their surrogacy journey. The second father is Jens. So he is a German. He is the father of two, one girl and one boy. He goes through surrogacy twice with two different surrogates. He is one of the first to go through surrogacy in Germany. So I think it's a good experience, and you'll talk about this. So I'm very excited to hear about your story as well. Melissa, she is a surrogate, but also she is a mother of 6. She goes through, she went to adoption, she has a biological child, and she has also a surrogate child, if we can say this. So you carried 3 times for a surrogacy, also for a Belgian couple. And she is a member of a consultative committee to men having babies. Most of the time, you talk about your experience thanks to men having babies, and so you will talk about your experience later. The second surrogate is Rachel. So Rachel goes through surrogacy twice. You went to visit your, so you are the father, the father of the second journey, I think. So I think it's a very good opportunity to talk with you, because we have the chance to have a surrogate and one of the father of the second journey. So you gave birth first to a singleton in 2013, and of twins for you as well. So David is a father of twins. Yes. He is in Italy, and I think the very good point of your story is that you spent some time for vacation. You went to Italy, and you spent 5 weeks with your surrogate after delivery, and I think it's a very good experience, and it shows intimacy in a surrogacy process. So now I think I give, you can speak first. So Fabien will speak in French. Okay, okay. So after you can speak.
Bonsoir, donc pour me présenter, je suis effectivement le papa d'une petite fille merveilleuse de 20 mois. Nous sommes en couple avec mon mari depuis 17 ans. La GPA n'a pas été pour nous la première option que nous avions choisie. On s'était d'abord dirigé vers l'adoption en Belgique. C'est un processus qui est quand même assez long, que nous avons suivi vraiment jusqu'au bout. Donc jusqu'à avoir des entretiens individuels avec une ASBL agréée. Et puis tout au long de ce processus, en fait, on s'est rendu compte que nos chances d'adopter à l'époque étaient très minces, jusqu'à en fait abandonner l'espoir d'avoir un enfant via l'adoption. Et donc une autre option s'est présentée à nous, c'était la GPA, qui nous a semblé plus réalisable et plus fiable aussi. Avec, je dirais, un résultat quasi certain quand vous commencez le processus, c'est qu'à la fin, vous devenez parent. Donc on a trouvé une agence, on a regardé un peu toutes les informations qu'on pouvait avoir sur Internet sur le choix d'une agence. On n'avait pas la chance d'avoir un forum comme celui-ci qui collecte des informations, donc c'est vrai qu'on a essayé de voir un peu partout ce qu'on avait. Et on a signé un contrat donc, avec une agence en, je dirais, quasiment 18 mois avant la naissance de notre fille. Donc le processus total, en fait, après 18 mois. Donc l'agence, il y a d'abord une relation de confiance qui a dû s'élaborer, et puis qui nous a présenté le dossier d'une candidate mère porteuse qui s'appelle Suzanne, qui vit au Wisconsin, qui est la maman d'un petit garçon. Et on est tombé sous le charme de son dossier. Mais c'est un match. Donc si son dossier nous plaisait, il fallait que également notre dossier lui plaise aussi, pour que ça colle. Et donc l'histoire a commencé avec Suzanne. Donc on a appris à se connaître via de nombreux Skype. C'est allé progressivement, doucement. C'est pas toujours évident d'établir une relation de confiance transatlantique. On est très loin, Skype déforme aussi. Il y a des différences culturelles qui se présentent également. Par exemple, Suzanne était toujours so exciting, et toujours comme ça. Et nous, on était non. Donc, il faut un peu prendre en considération ce genre de choses dans la relation qui s'est nouée. C'est des choses très intimes, en fait, qu'on a partagées aussi avec elle. C'est une expérience de vie extraordinaire. Suzanne est une personne très altruiste dont le souhait, un des souhaits, c'était de permettre à un couple qui ne pouvait pas devenir parent à être une famille. Donc ça nous a beaucoup touchés. Elle travaillait dans un milieu médical, elle est assistante obstétricienne, donc elle travaille dans une maternité. C'est quelqu'un de très sympa, très stable, et donc son dossier nous a beaucoup plu, évidemment. Donc c'est allé progressivement jusqu'à... Mais je dirais qu'elle était beaucoup plus en avance que nous, en fait. Elle avait des mois d'avance sur ce que nous, on pouvait penser. Par exemple, à 3 mois de grossesse, elle nous a dit, quand on l'a rencontrée pour la première échographie, elle nous a dit, voilà, vous serez là pour l'accouchement. Je fais, wow. Ah oui, c'est vrai, on sera là, oui, pour l'accouchement. Et donc, on a compris aussi qu'il fallait la rassurer pour que l'on soit bien là, en fait, et qu'on n'allait pas la laisser en cours de route. Et de le même sens, on avait cette appréhension qu'une fois que le bébé soit né, que ça se passe mal, en fait. En fait, tout s'est très, très, très bien passé. Donc, c'était très, 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 très bien. Une fois que Lily Rose est née, on s'en est occupé de suite aux États-Unis. On était dans notre petite bulle à 3 avec Mario, où on a appris à se rencontrer, et c'était vraiment le fondement de notre famille. Et après tout ce processus, en fait, qui a quand même été long, puisque moi je date à 2009 notre première action pour créer une famille, et Lily Rose qui est née en 2015, je dirais que la véritable aventure, en fait, elle a commencé quand Lily Rose est née.
That was a long introduction, but sorry? The story, yeah. Jens Landwehr from Germany. As you said, I have 2 children. Our daughter is 8 years old, and with that surrogacy, I think we were indeed one of the first German couples to go through this. She was born in Minneapolis. Our surrogate was from there, and our second child, our son, was born only 2 years ago in San Diego. And California, of course, has a very different process. It's much easier. So the second time around, it wasn't as exciting, as nerve-wracking as the first time around. So we since also, maybe for the people from Germany here, have seen the documentary that we did about this process. There was a German filmmaker who asked us a few years ago if he could sort of follow us in this journey towards the second child. And we said initially, no, we don't want this, of course. We I mean, this is just so much to deal with. How can we deal with another party involved here? But then eventually we agreed to do it because we wanted to tell the story. And this was shown on German television in, I believe, in March for the first time on AR, I mean on the first German broadcasting program, and then again in April in a regional channel. And the response was overwhelmingly positive, mostly from heterosexual couples who have no resources on surrogacy, but equally, of course, gay couples. There's just simply a lack of information in Germany, and we of course experienced that ourselves as well. But from the response, it became really clear what the need is, also how large the need is from people to learn more about it. And this this response here, and I'm really overwhelmed how many people are here in this room today. This is amazing. So there is obviously a lot of interest, and we're still getting responses, and we're trying to provide advice as much as we can. But of course, when you have 2 children to raise, you can only meet so many people and have so many phone calls on the weekend. But we're trying to accommodate that. But of course, this is much more efficient here, I think, for a lot of people.
Thank you. So now.
My name is Melissa. I'm from the US. When I did my surrogacy journeys, they were in Arizona. So that's where my husband and I reside for most of our marriage. We've been married 15 years. I have 6 children, a mixture of adopted and biological, and I have surro babies as well. We have 2 here in Brussels, an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. So we did our first journey a while ago when there was limited information. So it definitely has grown. So you always wonder where that seed kind of plants. For me, my godfather was gay. He never was able to have his own children. I was raised around him often. I spent a lot of weekends and vacations with him, and that's probably where my drive came from to apply for surrogacy. So I applied in 2007 through Circle. We did our transfer January 2008 with Dr. Doyle, and he was born September 26th, so his birthday is on Monday. He'll be 8. So I am very fortunate. I get to see them very frequently. They're in the US often. We do family vacations together. We exchange emails and photos and phone calls. So it's not always the norm, but I'm very fortunate to be able to be around him, especially now that he's older. He's asking a lot of questions. So it was very interesting to go to school yesterday to pick him up, and he's like, "That's my surro mom. She lives in the US." Like nothing, you know? So it was, "Oh, she's here?" And you know, you become famous for the day. They're all like looking and inquisitive. So it was very fun to see that he's always known his journey and the whole process. His parents have been very honest and open about everything. And I think that's very important for them to know where they've come from. And so he calls me his surro mom, and he knows that he was grown in my belly. So he'll go and line up my kids and be like, "You grew in her belly? You didn't. You grew in her heart. You grew in her belly? I grew in her belly," you know? So it's really fun to see the dynamics at such a young age. And then of course the 3-year-old, she's definitely starting to become more interested and more lovable. Like she's always hugging and kissing and wanting to like me to read to her, and just really engaged each visit. So it's been interesting to see them blossom and grow. And the same with the IPs. I mean, the first time that they left, I was like, "Oh boy." And then I saw him 5 weeks later, and I'm like, "You have this down packed. You're great. Like you're doing everything like so wonderfully." And it was so great to see how natural it became to them. So We started in Arizona, so the laws were kind of iffy then. It was more of like a gray. But they were able to do a secondary adoption. And then the second one, it was much easier. So the whole process is long, so be prepared for that, because sometimes you think, oh, you just get pregnant and 9 months later, here it is, and it's not the case. There's a lot of paperwork and psychological testing and medical testing, and it's just a very, very long commitment. So be very open and honest with what you're looking for. It helps the process. And it also helps emailing in between, and we were fortunate that he was able to come to so many appointments, and they were there for delivery, which was really nice. Sometimes it doesn't always happen the way you plan. I mean, babies come when they're ready, so be prepared for that if you're going to the US for the whole process. But we were very blessed, and it's so nice to be a part of these panels to really talk about everything and just our journey in general. And I'll let you guys go ahead. Okay.
My name's Rachel, and I am a 2-time surrogate. I started the surrogacy process in 2012 when I wanted to help another family. I was actually approached by one of my best friends from college who was told that she could never conceive naturally. And after trying for 4 years and approaching me, we started the surrogacy process, but she was able to get pregnant on her own, and which is fantastic, but I didn't want to stop there. I wanted to continue my journey on finding another couple to help. And so I applied to be a surrogate in 2012 and was matched with my first couple, and they are from Pisa. So I had their little boy in April of 2013, and I was able to nurse him in the hospital, which is very unique, and it's something that you will have to be very open with your surrogate about if you want that as an option for your baby, or if you want her to pump, or other aspects. It's just something to take into consideration. I was very open and willing to do that for my IFs, because it's the best start for baby, and it helps the healing process for me, and it just makes the whole journey kind of come together. We stayed together in our hospital room, which is also very unique. We wanted to spend as much time together as possible, and they ended up renting an apartment very close to my home in California, where they stayed for 3 weeks before they returned home. And then after that, I decided I wanted to do it again. I enjoyed it so much the first time and had such an amazing experience that I didn't want to stop. I wanted to find another couple that I could help. And that's where my second couple came in. They actually found me. They found my story with my first couple through another organization in Italy, and they approached my first IFs and asked about me. And we were matched shortly after in 2013. It was very short after birth that happened. And we matched and spent that first weekend actually in Vegas together, which sounds kind of odd, but we just figured they're in the United States, let's get to know each other the best that we can, and why not just go on vacation right away. So they joined us in Vegas. My husband and my son and I and my brother were there. They joined us, and we had a fantastic weekend. We then transferred one embryo in May of 2014, and that was a failed transfer. Nobody expects a failed transfer when they go into this, but preparing yourself is necessary, because you never know what happens, and we did everything right. We did everything the doctors told us to. It just happens. But we didn't let that discourage us. We moved forward and ended up transferring 2 embryos just 2 months later. Yeah, 2 months later. And that resulted in two amazing little boys who were born in March of 2015. We were very lucky that they made it in time for birth. I delivered them at 36 weeks, just one day after their daddies arrived in the United States. So very, very lucky that they made it in time. We all shared a hospital room during this journey as well, and I exclusively nursed the twins through the entire hospital stay, and they actually lived with my family and I for 5 weeks before returning home, which is again a very unique situation and something that we were very open and honest about from the beginning, that I wanted as close of a relationship as possible, not only through the pregnancy process, but also after birth and even after they returned home. So at 5 weeks when they returned home, we continued to Skype and they send messages weekly. I get weekly updates from both families. I'm very blessed and so grateful that I share this amazing relationship with both families. I get lots of videos, lots of pictures, and I was fortunate enough to actually spend my vacation time last March with my first couple. I spent a week in Pisa with them, and then I got to spend the twins' first birthday with them in Rome, which the amount of love, it can't even be described, because when you get introduced to friends and family, it makes it real. It's not just, you're not just in your surrogacy bubble anymore, because you've affected this whole family, not just the parents. You've affected their parents and their siblings and their friends. So to be able to meet with them so they could see that I am real. I am not just somebody from the other side of the world that helped through this short 9 to 12 month process. I'm real and I stay in contact and love it. So I was put on this earth to be a surrogate. It's my purpose, and I will continue doing it and continue loving these little boys that I helped to bring into the world, and love their daddies just as much.
And I am David. We are the lucky boys with my husband behind and the babies. Yes, because we have perfect timing. When we decide to have babies, we start from man having babies. We decide to see man having babies site and contact the 5 most rated agency. We discovered the one we decide to work with, and the case manager, after she met by Skype, really knew our character and asked to us, why don't you want to stay with a surrogate that finished just 2 months ago? Okay, we can do it. For us, it was very strange, because when you start the journey, you cannot understand how you probably always say about surrogate that they are a special person. They are really special, and we cannot imagine how can she go through another journey with us, but it's possible, because the love she can give is incredible. And we met in Los Angeles first time. We decided to go through this process together, but it's not only she not only give us the opportunity to have 2 babies, she create our family. Rachel and Eric, her husband, became our witness wedding. Because we get married in 2040. She organized, of course, not only when she was pregnant, she organized our wedding in Santa Monica. Everything, and we spend the Christmas time and New Year's Eve together. and we will be there during the last day of the pregnancy. We were in the room when she was delivering, and we are really blessed to meet you, Rachel. And now we spend a lot of time together because we are planning to stay together also for Christmas time. It's real, it's possible, it's an ethical way to become parents. That's all.
So thank you, everyone. So, you know, I do a comparison, surrogacy comparison between the Ukraine and the United States. So my first question is for you, the dad. Why did you decide to go in the United States and not in Ukraine or in India? Because sometimes it's less far away from, like for Italian or Germany. So maybe Fabien or...
C'est une question d'une part de sécurité juridique. Très clairement, les États-Unis offraient une possibilité qu'il n'y avait pas ailleurs, de pouvoir revenir en Belgique sans souci avec un passeport américain, puisque quand on est né aux États-Unis, on a automatiquement un passeport américain. C'est pas que ça. Il y a aussi le fait qu'aux États-Unis, ils ont une tradition, ils ont une histoire de GPA qui remonte à 35 ou même 40 années d'expérience. Donc tout est très très bien balisé, tout est très connu sur plein de choses. Et donc ça a été pour nous fondamental, c'est sûr.
For us, it was a very clear decision. For me, it would have not been an option to have a child anywhere else than in the US. Maybe for two reasons. One reason was we lived, me and my partner also, but slightly different timing. We lived in the US for 10 years prior, and it was sort of these years where I developed also this idea of having a family in this through this process. So yeah, it's very simple, because for me it was already almost home. So this was also where I wanted to have my family, or create my family. And then also the second reason, of course, the risks that I heard about or that I read about on the internet or on television. It would have not been an option for me. And then maybe thirdly, this issue of transparency. For me, it was always a precondition that the whole process would have was, particularly for my children, was completely transparent, and so both the surrogate and the egg donor would have to be available, or at least be open to this relationship, basically for life, if chosen by my children. And this was the case in our case. And so in other countries, we didn't even research other countries, because there would have been the language barrier, the cultural barrier, and so yeah, it was simply not an option for us.
Okay, thank you.
For us, it was the same. We want to be completely clear with our child. We want to say everything of our story, and US for us was the only way to be parent. We want to be involved in a relationship with our surrogate, with our egg donor. We want to be in a clear story. This is the only way for us.
Okay, so we can see that the relationship is really important to you.
Yeah.
That's why I would like to ask first Melissa and Rachel after about the relationship between the parents. Do you feel they're like a member of your family, or it's a kind of friendship? How do you feel about the relationship between you and the father?
I feel like it's family. Mm-hmm. So we try to share as much as possible with one another, holidays or birthdays, but we can also not talk for like a week or a month and pick up right where we left off. I mean, life happens as these babies get bigger and they're in activities and work, you get busy. So it's not that I expect them to call me for every little thing. But don't get me wrong, I love hearing from them and sharing in everything that they're enjoying and the whole process, but it's not for me to be expected. My kids get super excited when they come. We try to plan things at least once a year. We were really fortunate. My IP, one works in the US, so we saw him a lot more frequently. But we probably see each other, I would say, at least once or twice a year. The whole family dynamic, maybe one separate or here and there. But I have a large family too, so it's a lot of planning. But I talk to them on the phone or email. We exchange presents often. We mail things back and forth. So I would definitely say it's more family.
I would also say that it's just like family, because that's what I wanted from my journeys. I didn't want this cut and dry journey. I wanted to make sure that the families that I'm helping to create would then become our family. And my son adores all of my IFs and asks quite often how they're doing, and he gets on Skype with us as well. And I was fortunate enough actually to Skype once a week with my first couple. For the first year of his life, I got to see him once a week. And setting that time aside was so special to me because it was reassurance that, yes, we've discussed that we want this relationship after birth, but so many things can change. You go home to a whole new country, which isn't new to you, but new to raising a baby, and as a surrogate, you always hope that you're not going to be forgotten. But, sorry. You always want to assure that you're going to have a relationship afterwards if you want it. And staying close and with all of them becoming my family, that's how you do it. And this isn't for everybody. Not every couple wants a super close relationship. But for those that do, making sure that you're open about that ahead of time and making sure that you say, of course, I'll send updates and let's Skype and let's do family vacations and come and visit, and keeping that dialogue open, that's what matters. And that doesn't just matter to the intended parents, that matters to the surrogate and her family, because it doesn't just affect her. It affects her husband or her spouse, her wife, or whoever is her support system. It also affects her children. My son asks often how the twins are doing and how the other baby is doing, and if they have done certain things that he knows are milestones. So again, it's not just about me. It's about my whole family and enjoying this journey together. And the journey doesn't end after birth. It continues. At least for us, it does. And we'll continue to have family vacations and share Skypes and emails and calls and everything possible to keep the family connection going.
Just maybe to add something and as a response, what I heard from our surrogates was that it's their experience, and they also went through other surrogacies. It's easier to work with gay couples actually for them, because in heterosexual couples going through surrogacy, you have always this competition going on between the mother that obviously is not going to get pregnant, but you may be using her eggs, and the surrogate. So and you don't have this issue with gay couples, so it's easier. I just wanted to add also how our relationship is with our surrogates. Maybe like from the perspective of our kids, of course, there is no doubt that we are the parents, me and my husband, we are the parents of our children, and there's never any doubt about that. But the surrogates play an important role, and our first surrogate, she still sends every Christmas, every birthday, we get gifts from her. So it's really amazing. The relationship has been, even after the 8th year now, very strong. And by the way, it was also the minute I met her, we met her over the phone also, first contact. It was love at first sight. And yeah, that's how it works. And otherwise, I wouldn't go for it. You know, don't do it if you don't feel. If you don't feel that way about your surrogate.
Don't.
Because she's carrying your baby. So, and with the second surrogate, we're still sort of in the honeymoon phase, you know, because our son is only 2 years old, and we're traveling in about a couple of weeks. We're traveling back to see her. We've been back 5 times over the last 2 years, and yeah, so the relationship's still very strong. Yet for our kids, it's us. You know, the center of the family is us, and there's no doubt about that. I would call it extended family. We call it extended family, but the relationship definitely is very strong. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because you said that like, if you don't feel it, don't go there. So that's why I would like to ask you about the screening. What do you think about the screening and mostly the surrogate mother has to go through? So how did you feel about the screening, like medical screening and psychological screening? And did you feel like it was something like very important to you when you went to the surrogacy center, that there are a lot of screening or not?
You're asking me?
You first, the surrogate, yes.
I personally think it's very important to read the whole packet and look for things, and I went through extensive backgrounds. They do everything, so medical screening, psychological, they talk to your husband, some even talk to your kids if they're older, so they really go in depth. Certain agencies, I know ours did, they asked, well, do you think it would be okay if the IPs call you? They want to talk to you. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, please call me. Like, so we did a phone interview as well, and the first time they called, it was a Friday, and they said, what are you doing for Monday for lunch? I said, I don't know, why? Well, we'll be in the US. Oh, perfect, let's meet. So we were really fortunate. So we got to meet each other first, and then kind of build the blocks up. And I think it was probably a good 6 months of talking back and forth before we really moved on. But you'll know, like you just know, like there's something inside of you that knows, okay, this is a good way to go. And for me, I just knew. So you'll have some type of connection, but it's follow your gut and be honest and open, because some don't want a huge relationship, and that's okay. If that's what you want, be honest on the paperwork and you'll get those packets. If you want the family connection afterwards, you'll get different packets. I mean, as long as you're open and honest about everything, you'll have what you need, the right tools. So just be honest with yourself and your partners and collaborate what you want, and the rest will come.
I would say that it's also love at first sight. You get butterflies. It's such a hard feeling to describe, but you will know it. In that moment, when you see your surrogate, you will know in your gut, there she is. This is the person that we are meant to do this journey with. And even for a surrogate looking for intended parents, it happened to me too, twice. And I've been in match meetings where that feeling's not there, and I know that that's not the right fit. As far as screening, they turn over every rock in your past. They looked at every possible thing in my past, every possible thing in my husband's past. which is good. I wouldn't want it any other way, because I want intended parents to know everything. There is absolutely nothing to hide, and if you ever come into a situation where an agency or even a surrogate is hiding something, that's not the right fit. And that's why we do these psychology screenings and even medical screenings. I mean, what you write on a piece of paper can be completely different than what the doctor's going to find. And that's why it's very important to trust the agency and trust the doctors that are doing these screenings, because anything can come up, and it protects you as well as a surrogate, but primarily it protects you to know that you have a surrogate who is going to follow through with what she says she's going to do, and she's going to treat the journey the way that she says she's going to treat the journey. So just make sure that you do all of that, making sure that everything's covered. I didn't mind the screening process. It is a very long screening process, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it in the end.
And be prepared, because if you are in the journey, you will be in love with a lot of women, and it happened. I say the truth, and you see your surrogate, and you say, "I love this girl." Yes, it's incredible. It's happened.
Je dois dire que c'est un côté très rassurant de recevoir un dossier avec 350 questions et réponses, du coup, qui vous présente un peu la personne qui est potentiellement votre mère porteuse. Ça permet un premier contact, ça permet aussi de voir si on est bien sur la même longueur d'onde. Nous, par exemple, l'un de nos critères, c'était effectivement que notre mère porteuse accepte de rester en contact avec nous après la naissance du bébé. Et donc ça, c'était un des critères essentiels pour nous, qui était rempli dans le dossier. Ça va vraiment dans le détail, donc c'était assez intrusif comme questionnaire. Mais du coup, on avait une bonne idée générale de la personne qu'on allait rencontrer par Skype après. Et en fait, le premier Skype n'a pas bien fonctionné. La personne qu'on a eue en face, en fait, correspondait pas tout à fait à l'image qu'on avait dans le dossier. Donc on était un peu déroutés. Suzanne était pas du tout comme, en tout cas d'un premier abord, comme elle se décrivait. Mais bon, on s'est dit, bon, quelque chose ne va pas en fait. Donc on a décidé de faire un deuxième Skype. Et c'est là où en fait la confiance a commencé à apparaître. Et c'est là où en fait on a pu aller plus au fond des choses. Comme en fait une personne que vous rencontrez ailleurs, et il faut y aller progressivement. Mais c'est vrai qu'on avait une foule d'informations sur elle. Et du coup, le premier entretien téléphonique n'avait pas été très concluant, alors que le deuxième s'est super bien passé. Et donc c'est comme ça qu'on s'est lancé.
And I have a question, because you've talk about relationship, and I have this question about money, you know, our relationship, because they pay you to be a surrogate. So how do you feel about this, you know? And you also, how do you feel about paying the surrogate?
Well, actually, for me, it didn't matter very much. It didn't come up as a yeah. Of course, I mean, particularly when you go through the process in the U.S., it's very costly. Clearly, I mean, the money is a big thing when you deal with the agency, and when you actually go through this process of deciding. Can we actually afford this? And it still is a big issue for us, because we went through 2 surrogacies. So it's like you're not going to have your Porsche Cayenne, but you have your child basically. So no, I mean it's really a huge amount of money. Yes, and but in the relationship, the money never played a role. We never talked about money, and it never even crossed my mind that she's getting those 30,000 euros for that. And it's really, it doesn't feel like a compensation. It's just it's basically to cover her expenses and kind of the cover and cover the. Yeah, of course, it's kind of a paycheck, so that she doesn't have to, do any other job during this year. But it's not a big amount of money if you consider what you're getting for that. So it doesn't feel like a compensation really. It feels more like covering the expenses. And again, in the relationship, it never came in the personal interaction. It never played a role. It never came up, and it was that was also facilitated by the agency. So the agency told us also don't even bother because basically we're taking care of that. I mean, that's the good thing about working with an agency, that you don't have to deal with that.
For me, it's the same. We don't feel we pay money for surrogacy. We pay money for the lawyer, for the judgment, for the agency, for the hospital, and so on. But no, we cover some expense she have to do it, and so on. And I agree with you. Have a good agency that it's a bridge about this situation. It's better.
And you, the surrogates, you know, because in France, most of the time people say that it's like slavery and like prostitution. So how did you feel about
Well, I think when
ID?
I did the first transfer, I think it was between 17 and 20,000 that I got for the entire year. And I was with the couple for close to 18 months. I could get a part-time job making that kind of money if you're in it for money. To me, it wasn't about money. It was helping them create a family. And I was that person. I helped them become a family. There is a lot of suffering. I mean, you are injected with needles for 12 weeks, at least. That is the minimum at the IVF clinics. Your bum, you can no longer sit on by the time you get to 12 weeks. You are going like this constantly because you are so sore. There's a lot of medication in the very beginning. There are times, I know with my second one, I vomited every single solitary day. Every day. They tell you these things can happen. I was pregnant with my own, it never happened. It happens. These things, sometimes that you think will never happen. And that's why there's a contract and clause, because they want you to tell you all of this stuff can happen. Whether or not it happens or not is one thing. I mean, you just can't expect certain things to happen, and they do. So we never personally talked about it. And I feel that the surrogates are probably the least amount on the itemized list. So it's medication and IVF clinics and doctors, and I was lucky enough to have health insurance that covered a lot of it. Some do and some don't, so that's something else that you may want to look for, because it could be even more costly.
As far as compensation, I never discussed it with either couple, because it just didn't need to be discussed. The agency took care of it, and even sitting down looking at that first contract, I remember my husband and I talking about it and asking each other, why is this such a high amount? Why are they paying me so much to do this? Because when you're in it for different reasons, not the compensation reasons, it looks silly on paper to think that you're getting this amount of money just for helping somebody. And when it's all said and done and you're going through everything, yes, it is a compensation for what we go through. And when my first journey was so simple, my second journey wasn't. And I mean, twins is not a walk in the park, and no joke when I say I was sick the whole time, and they literally sucked every piece of me. Like, they took it all. They took everything I had, but they were worth it. And even with the compensation side, it wouldn't matter to me, because when I look at the families, that's what matters. When I see those smiling boys running towards me to give me a hug, that's what matters. When it comes down to the compensation, to me personally, that is just a number on a piece of paper. And to be able to share holidays with these babies and the daddies and everything else, that's where it comes into me. And that's what means the most to me. But it's nice to also have the reassurance that if I can no longer work, that I can still have a place to live because I'm being compensated for something. It's also, like Melissa said, we could go out and get a part-time job to earn that amount. It's really not a huge amount for us, but we don't look at it that way. It's just a number, and it's something that we get into knowing that it could be tough. And most people wouldn't get into this if they really truly knew what went into it, the medication and the time. This is a 24-hour job for us. This is taking care of somebody else's child, making sure that their well-being is taken care of from the moment of transfer to the moment that they are in their parents' hands. So compensation really is the smallest part in all of this. It's more about growing the family and making sure that baby or babies are healthy and that you are able to give them to their parents.
So thank you for sharing your story and your journey. So now we have 5 minutes. So if you have question, it's now, and yes, it's now. I think it's an opportunity to have parents and the surrogates. So don't be shy and yes. Okay, so the relationship between the egg donor and the surrogate and you.
Yes.
So
yes,
do you know your egg donor? Or?
Yes, I always said there is a time before our babies, before Emanuele and Matteo, and after. Before we want to know the egg donor. We want to see in the eyes, and we want to meet her, and we want to share the stories. After the babies, it's important that the egg donor allowed the babies to meet her if they want in the future. When you have the babies, you know that the two dads or the only dad are the family, and they care about his dad. That's all. The egg donor is important in the process, in the whole process, but the relation is with the surrogate, really.
La relation avec la mère porteuse est quand même, enfin, de notre côté, était beaucoup plus forte qu'avec la donneuse d'ovules. Cela dit, en fait, on s'est aussi très bien entendu avec la donneuse d'ovules. On est devenus amis Facebook, en fait. Donc on suit un peu nos vies comme ça. Et il se trouve que notre donneuse d'ovules est elle-même devenue maman. Et donc elle a un petit garçon qui partage, qui a une partie génétique en commun avec notre propre fille. Mais c'est vrai que la relation la plus forte qu'on vit, elle est avec la mère porteuse, parce que la donneuse d'ovules apparaît au tout début du processus. Et après, elle disparaît en fait. Elle n'est plus, elle n'a pas de grossesse, donc c'est assez rapide.
Well, as I already said initially, the total transparency was for us was the condition to actually get into the process. So with everybody involved, and we consider actually the egg donor our mother. It's the mother of our children, because this is why my daughter looks like she looks, and this is why my son looks like he looks. So that's the mother in that sense. That's a very, very important person in the process. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So one last question, yes. So no, just the first question is about did you give your eggs or?
I was the gestational gestational carrier. So for me, I signed up for a gestational carrier. Some couples will do traditional surrogacy where you use the egg and the mother's uterus. I did not. I did somebody else's egg and my uterus. So I was a gestational carrier. I think it's just preference, but most agencies will recommend gestational carrier. Does that help or no? He looks puzzled. I'm sorry.
No, I think he wants to know if you can be a surrogate
I
and egg
didn't?
donor.
Yes, why you didn't, for me, you talking about feelings here all the time. I'm interested in this emotional component because at the end of the day, what Jens said, the egg donor is the biological parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Not the parent, the biological mother, yeah.
Mother.
Parent,
Yes.
no.
Parent, no.
could you repeat the question, please, on the mic? Because otherwise we can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh.
So about egg donation, how do you feel about egg donation and the way the fact that you are a surrogate and you didn't give your eggs? So, and do you think you could be an egg donor? Or I think it's something like that you want to know. Yes.
Okay, lots of questions
Yeah,
all in
yeah.
one. So I guess personally, I went in it as a gestational carrier, thinking that it would be easier for me to have the guideline, the boundary. After knowing my IPs and the second journey, I probably very well would have done either or. So I guess it's more of a personal preference and how attached you are to the individual. But in the US, they typically do an egg donor and a gestational carrier. And that is typical. Not always, but agencies recommend it. Probably because of the biological component. So legally, it's probably something. I personally did gestational carrier.
And the last question for you.
I just wanted to be a gestational carrier. I didn't want to donate eggs because at that point it is my biological child out there, and that's just a guideline from a preference for my family. I love being pregnant. I dream about being pregnant. I mean, even at the sickest time, I still love it. So that just inspired me to go down the gestational surrogacy route because that's what I truly love. I love creating the family and having that bond, not just donating my eggs and then they find another carrier. That's not what I was interested in personally. And I don't remember the second part of the question that you had asked. I'm sorry. Just the emotion part. Oh, not being attached. Yes, I have a biological son, and there has never been an emotional attachment to any of the babies that I've carried, minus my own because he was biologically mine, because these babies were never mine. They always belonged to their dads. There was never a moment in time from the time that the eggs were harvested to becoming embryos to being transferred to me. Those babies were never mine, period. They always belonged to their dads, and that is the line for me. I get to borrow these babies and take care of them for 9 months, hopefully, and literally hand them over to their daddies and to hold that accomplishment, because it's a huge accomplishment to be able to grow a human being and then be able to watch a family literally grow in front of you. And I will never forget the look on all 4 of my intended fathers' faces when I got to present them their child, because they were always theirs. They were never mine.
It's a different feeling. Like, you're a part of the entire journey. You're their parents. This is your baby that's in us, but you're its parents. Like, it's a feeling that you'll understand when you go through the whole process. It's hard to describe. I feel more of like an aunt. So, like, if you can understand, like, how you'd feel, like, to your nephews, it's kind of like that. But they were always a part of everything. it's a whole different perspective when you're going through it, and they're a part of the delivery. They're the ones that are cutting the cord and doing everything. Like, that's their job. They're now their parents. Diaper changes, not me. Like, oh, here, poop, here you go. Like, it's, you're able to just be there for fun and really enjoy the process. It's a whole different dynamic, and you'll understand it when you get to that point. And everybody feels different, but that's how I personally feel. It's more of like an anti-bond to them.
Thank you both so much. And thanks to everybody on the panel. Delphine, thank you so much.